What's up, traders? Sandra O'Connell with Pristine Capital coming at you with yet another market recap video. It is October 5th, 2021. Please go ahead, click the like button on the video, subscribe to my channel. Today we're going to talk about the price action in the headline indices. We're going to talk about this nice bounce that we had in the market and really just put this bounce into perspective. Before we jump into that, quick risk disclaimer: nothing in this video should be construed as investment advice or recommendations. Please follow your own trading plan and your own risk parameters. Last but certainly not least, do not YOLO your entire account to any one of my trades or anyone's trades for that matter. All right, headline indices, box scores. S&P 500 is measured by the SPY. Closed at 1.04%. NASDAQ QQQ, our big winner for today, closing up 1.35%. IWM is lagging behind today. The small caps finished up 0.35%, and then the Dow Jones finished up 0.92%. So it's interesting in terms of this relative strength is that today seemed like a counter trend day. What I mean by that is over the last 5 weeks, the Dow Jones and the IWM small caps have been leading the market. What's interesting, it's not like, they've been leading the rally. They've been losing less value in the sell-off. And overall, just performing, they've been a little bit more durable. The QQQ has been the worst performer. And now for today's price action, had the biggest bounce. So definitely makes sense intuitively. A lot of these mega cap tech names, which were really getting, just sold off, to a great extent, they got their bounces today. In terms of the volatility of the market, you can see that NASDAQ vol really came in down 8.19%. And then in terms of the small caps and the Dow Jones, the vol came in quite a bit less. Breadth, overall very solid across the board. Did not exactly close on the highs, but still pretty solid. We had strongest breadth in the NASDAQ, 79% advancers. We had 87% advancers in the Dow. That's kind of crazy. And then bringing up the rear, we had the SPY and the IWM in terms of breadth. Let's take a look at the price action for today. So S&P 500, so let's talk about this team. So this is great that we got a bounce. It feels awesome. Market's at 1.04%, great. But this is just another inside day. And we talked about these inside days yesterday, where the inside day is when you make a lower high compared to the prior day of price action. And you can see that right here. And then you also make a higher low. And you can see that right here. So yeah, the price action is really just consolidating and tightening, but it's not really like, we're making significant progress here. The other thing is the S&P 500 for most of the day was trading inside of this monthly value area. And by the time we closed out the trading session, in the last couple minutes of trade, we actually pushed below this monthly value area. So to me, what that's saying is, the markets or these market participants, they're not ready to bring this market to the next level. So is this downtrend over? No, this is a little bit more ambiguous. The market participants, they could have brought it there, but they did not. There was more selling to be done. And we ended off on this very ambiguous point. Also, this downward trend channel the market has been following. We very conveniently closed pretty much right at the upper end of it. Very similar to what we did 2 trading sessions ago. So it's still a little bit early to say the coast is clear, as much as I hate saying that. And let's look at the hourly chart. So this is what I mean here, where we had, nice movement in the morning, a big move at around 10 a.m. And the market just consolidated for a couple hours. It was drifting higher. And then into the close, we just had some selling. So we were not able to make it up to this weekly point of control. That would be a great milestone if we could take out this 43.64 level. And we look at the VIX. The VIX just refuses to get under 20 again. Take a look. So definitely, we made some downward progress on the VIX. I guess that's good. But at the end of the day, all we did was push to the low end of the range. So if we're still in this choppy environment, and we are not able to break the downtrend, you know, all of a sudden it's like, okay, we're at the bottom end of the range. What, are we going to go to the top end of the range again? You know, you sort of have that question mark hanging over this market. Now let's take a look. We'll pull up our NASDAQ. NASDAQ also, you know, okay, awesome. Traded up 1.38%. Earlier it was up, you know, as much as 1.9%. And look at this, we were not able to close even above this 5-day EMA, and this was, you know, another inside day. So yeah, again, awesome that we're closing green, but it's not really like we made any significant technical progress. Russell 2000, this was another, you know, lackluster moment here. So early on in the day, the Russell started moving, and all these indices are really moving to the upside. And it was like, all right, you know, maybe this is the day where we just break out of that downtrend. You know, we pushed above this monthly point of control, and all seemed well. It was like, okay, above the monthly point of control, suddenly we open up the door to this monthly value area high, but sellers came in very aggressively and just knocked this one lower very quickly. So yeah, there's still active sellers in the Russell and really in all these indices. So yeah, we fell back below the monthly point of control and below some of these key moving averages. We are now trading above the 200-day simple moving average, but we weren't able to close above the 20, the 50, or the 5-day EMA. And look at this. So we're kind of just stuck in this weekly value area. And you'll see here, we tried to break above this weekly point of control. Looks like we had done it. And then those sellers came in. So we got rejected at this level. You know, could we make another run at this weekly value area low? It's certainly possible. We're going to have to see what happens tomorrow. That's why I think, like, even when we get this super volatile days and the VIX for all these indices is elevated, a lot of times you just get like that blow off move to the upside. It's like everyone's hedges are just blowing up. Everyone's covering their shorts. You just get like a nice trend day to the upside. It really looked like that was what was going to happen today, but it just didn't really come to fruition. I mean, it makes sense. Like, we have crude oil that's just ripping to the upside. We have treasuries, you know, just ripping to the upside. We have the Evergrande situation, you know, credit deteriorating in China. We have our own issues with this debt ceiling. So I guess it makes sense where, like, the market's not just going to be like, all right, let's completely remove all these hedges we had on. You know, VIX back to 13. So we still have a lot of uncertainty ahead of us. Yeah, this Russell Volatility Index, you can see we pushed to the low end of the range. What's actually kind of lackluster about this is the vol essentially came out of this thing, but we didn't really make any significant upward progress. So that's another sort of like negative, where you don't want the vol to just like hit the low end of the range and the stock do nothing. That's sort of characteristic of, like, you know, a bear market, where essentially like the hedges aren't working for players, like the vol's coming out. So they just start taking off their hedges, but, you know, it's not really meaning anything for the stock or the indices. So yeah, we'll have to see how this plays out tomorrow. Would I be awfully shocked if we tested the bottom end of this range tomorrow? I can't say that I would, because we did reject, you know, these key technical levels on most of the indices. And real quick, we'll take a look at the Dow. To be honest, the Dow, in terms of the progress it made today, actually looks the best out of all the indices. Dow Jones had the best breadth, and we actually tagged this 20-day simple moving average. We didn't quite close on it, but in terms of the last, you know, few days of trading, we pretty much closed, you know, right at the top end. So ironically, Dow Jones looks the most sound right now. Now let's take a look. We'll go onto the hood, check out our heat map. And yeah, these mega cap tech names had gotten battered, and now they had their balances today. So Apple up, Microsoft, Google, Facebook, Netflix. Talked about this one on the stream that I did with Juicy Trades. This was also on our weekend watch list for Pristine Capital members. This one was up 5.21% today. Had a really nice showing. Let's take a look at some of these FANG names. We'll look at Netflix. Yeah, Netflix, I had a trade on this one, took this one off for a nice winner. And yeah, we pretty much tagged that Venom R1 pivot level. So yeah, Netflix definitely looking good and definitely standing out from a lot of the other FANG names. You can see the others, they got bounces too. So we had Google trading up 1.8%. We had Microsoft up 2%. So yeah, some of these are starting to shape up a little bit more, which is good. This kind of reminds me, look at this pattern Microsoft's putting in. Kind of reminds me of back in the day what CrowdStrike did. I don't know why this just popped into my head, but look at this back here. I remember this sequence. Yeah, and this was in May. So look at this. We had, you know, it became tougher for these sellers to make any meaningful progress to the downside. And you can see the price action started to tighten up. And this bullish engulfing bar, definitely a good sign. And we just kept, you know, tightening, and then we pushed out. With Microsoft, we're starting to get a similar pattern, and we're really seeing that just with everything. I would say these candles, you know, they're not really tightening up that much. You know, the ranges are still really big. So we'll have to see, but could this just keep carving for a while? It definitely could. I'd like to see some tighter price action. Let's take a look at, and then you can see the financials, also very strong performers. I have my leaps on in the XLF. Now let's take a look at the sector. So sectors, you know, more evidence that this was definitely a counter trend day. We had, where do we see some strength? We saw strength in the ARK funds. Like this ARK FinTech was up 2.31%. KWeb, the Chinese internet fund, was up 2.63%. ARKK was up. A lot of these areas of the market that really got battered. Blockchain names were up 4.2%. Let's talk about blockchain. Now you can see financials were also showing some really nice relative strength. So blockchain, I'm definitely overweight in this area. I've been that way for the past couple of months, but check this out. Again, I did receive some feedback in terms of that TradingView heat map. Yeah, that one looks pretty good too, so I might start using that. So thank you so much for the feedback. Someone commented on the video and said, hey, you can use this resource. So far, I'm really liking it. But Bitcoin in literally 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days has pretty much recovered all of the losses from September. So this is why you can never really sleep on these cryptocurrencies, because all it takes is a couple days. Like, let's say we have another couple good days, we could literally be at new all-time highs. And I'm not expecting that to happen, but that's just for example. You know, we're already having a nice run here. But yeah, so we're seeing relative strength in cryptocurrency, relative strength, you know, Ethereum looking good also, not quite as good as Bitcoin here, but both looking very solid. And look at this. I took a snapshot of this little Zero Hedge article for you. Soros is cashing out of stocks, putting some capital into cryptocurrencies. Okay, so first of all, I just love this picture of Soros. Soros is like 100 years old at this point. Now, I'm not sure if he's literally 100. I'm actually curious to see how old he is. But literally, the guy's like very up there. Look at him. And I love how in the picture, they just make him look like a crazy old man. I just think that's so funny. But yeah, it says he's cashing out of stocks, putting some capital into crypto. And in the article, it talks about how, you know, with his fund heading into the COVID crash, you know, they had $5 billion in cash just ready to deploy. And they were able to deploy that during the COVID crash. They said that they have raised another $5 billion. So they've been, you know, look at this downtrend we've been in. Like, oh my gosh, who's selling all this? You know, Soros among the investors that's been selling. They raised, you know, $5 billion bucks. And so they're ready to go, you know, with their dry powder should something happen again. But it's interesting that he's taking some of that and putting it into crypto. This is unlike anything I've ever seen in the crypto markets before, where we're getting this decoupling from stocks. And I think the reason why is because investors know the Fed's going to be tapering their asset purchases. You know, they said beginning in November, they would announce it. Everyone knows this inflation is kind of getting out of hand. and the Fed might be forced to raise interest rates sooner than they thought, all this stuff wouldn't be an issue had the Fed and all of our politicians really just completely messed up our monetary system. Like, a monetary system shouldn't require that you're constantly like printing new money and all that. It's just, you know, we've strayed further from the light over the past like decade or so, and these problems, you know, they've been building up over years and years and years. But it's interesting now that some of these investors, they're going, you know what, I'm going to take this money out of this legacy system and actually put it into cryptocurrency. And another nuance here that I think is so cool is you can see Bitcoin is leading the charge. To me, that likely means, you know, these are probably just like some fundamental investors that are diving into crypto, and they just want to go with the most tried and true cryptocurrency, which is Bitcoin. I kind of like it that it's not like altcoins are leading the rally, because typically when the altcoins start just like ripping, that's when it's like, oh, okay, it's not like some big institution, you know, increasing their exposure to crypto. Like, this is literally just like degenerates, you know, like just buying up these like fake tokens and, you know, whatever. It's just really like not as legitimate. So this is saying like, hey, you know, we might have some investors that are, you know, coming over from these other areas. Let's take a look. We have our, oh yeah, crypto heat map. Wow, yeah, this thing is really cool. Yeah, I like this, how it has, you know, so many of these on it. This is actually better than the FinViz one. Yeah, we have Bitcoin and Ethereum, and it's cool. Yeah, they have the squares in terms of the market cap. We can see Solana. I have a small position in Solana that I started the past couple days. This one's actually lagging in favor of the big boys over here. Okay, so that is that for crypto. So yeah, look for the relative strength in crypto. It's really revealing itself. And then what else do we have? So in terms of trades for the day, I didn't do all that much. I took these IWM January of 2022, 219 calls for 1284. And this is really when IWM was looking strong in the morning. I said, you know what? I'm bullish on these small caps, and I want to make sure I give myself time just in case the budget doesn't get passed immediately, or, you know, there's another leg of selling or whatever. And then I closed out. I had some Netflix October 15th, 630 calls, closed those out for $13.05. I paid $9.55 for those. And I see treasury yields ticking up, putting this in my pocket just in case this breakout fails. Let's take a quick look at treasuries. Yeah, look at this. So treasury yields, this is another reason why, like, yeah, the bounce in the NASDAQ was great, but yeah, the treasury market's not strong. If the treasury market gets weaker, that bounce will likely be given back in the NASDAQ. So yeah, we'll have to see what happens with these 10-year treasuries. Let's take a quick look at our VigTech options matrix. Let's see here. Okay, yeah, so we'll go to our options races first. Let's take a look at what we got. If you're enjoying this video, please go ahead, click that like button on the video. Really appreciate you. Okay, what do we got here? Let's see if these are pretty much like the usual offenders. And I see Netflix is moving towards the top of the list. See a lot of just the FANG names, you know, the really liquid stuff that we're used to. I see this Devon Energy, DVN, and Netflix at the top of our list. Let's check these out. Yeah, so Netflix, more bullish flow, team. Look at this. Yes, they're buying exposure out in, you know, January 2022. Some October exposure here. More January 2022. So it looks like investors, they are just deciding to position in Netflix. And it makes perfect sense. I mean, this one just looks great compared to the others. So like this is Netflix breaking out versus Apple, for instance. Looks horrible. So yeah, investors are positioning in Netflix. And let's take a look at what else they're positioning in. I would imagine, yeah, they're buying calls in Google. Roku. Okay, DVN, this Devon Energy. Okay, they're buying calls for January 2022. Yeah, mostly Jan 2022, the 35 strikes. Let's see DVN. Whoa. So they're buying these when it's already so extended. This is really tough for me to get behind this one, team, because this one is like, you know, maybe if they bought it on like this breakout candle, that would make sense, but these people are really chasing this one. So yeah, I mean, the chart looks good, but you know, it looks definitely good for whoever was buying in this base, that's for sure. Let's see what happens with that one. Let's check out one more, then we'll wrap up. Let's see Roku. Okay, and this is a mixed bag. Let's see what Roku did today. This thing has sort of been in the dumps. Yeah, a little bounce, but this one's really not in a good trend. This one, it looks like it's on the verge of retesting the lows back from May. So yeah, not the strongest. That being said, that about does it for this market recap video. I'm actually going to be appearing on a Twitter Spaces. It's being hosted by Wolf Financial. There's going to be a bunch of, you know, big time Twitter people, huge followings. We're going to be talking about, you know, just the markets, what we're seeing. I'm going to go through some individual names I'm looking at during that hour. Thank you so much for tuning in. I will see you all tomorrow.